It's time for the Financial Crisis Talk Center with Ken Gross and David Einstandig from Thav Gross.
Credit card debt is number one. I view it as financial cancer.
40% of your gross income is going to just pay the debt service. You got no chance of getting out. I would give up my credit score to get rid of debt.
Here's your host, Ken Gross.
Welcome back to the Financial Crisis Talk Center. I've got Dave Einstandig, my co-host, Brian Small, my co-host from Thav Gross. Good morning, guys. Glad you're here again. Glad to see you back again after the break.
Good morning, Kenny.
Good to have you. We've got a special guest with us for this segment, Sabrina Cronin from Cronin Law.
Good morning.
Good morning, Sabrina. It's nice to have you with us.
Thank you.
Sabrina is one of our founding sponsors of the television version of the Financial Crisis Talk Center. I want to say, we appreciate the support. Sabrina is a great attorney. We're going to talk about today a couple areas. Your firm, I know, covers a vast area of law, and I want to kind of focus in as we go through the show on family law issues because it's a hot topic that we've cut across sometimes with Brian in bankruptcy, but I don't think we've actually even done a good job of covering that on the show over the last
Sabrina,
5
what
years.
I've heard over the years is, for as long as I can remember, is that divorces, when we refer to family law, it's mostly referring to divorces, but there's custody cases and all that. It's 50% over time that cuts across all socioeconomic areas. Doesn't matter how much you make or how much you don't make. We see about a 50% rate. Does that remain true today, to your knowledge?
Absolutely. Actually, it's higher than 50% now, but it does cross over all socioeconomic boundaries and issues. It's not a race thing. It's not, it knows no boundaries.
The only business I can see that really has that type of client base that keeps coming is maybe the clients that we handle that have funeral homes. I mean, there's
an inevitability to death.
And taxes.
And taxes.
Yeah, but taxes is more of a timing issue, and maybe the divorce.
But death is too. But we also are locked in with the fact that people just can't get along.
Right.
And on that basis, we're always going to have divorce, we're always going to have politicians, and we're always going to have war, too.
And we're always going to have bankruptcy because divorce and bankruptcy go hand in hand.
Well, a lot of the reason people get divorced is because of the financial issues. And that, of course, is because there's no communication on many levels. And the main issue that people don't want to talk about are finances. So
that's very true.
It's difficult.
One of the first things I sometimes write articles, and one of the very first articles I wrote on a column was a column that said, read your mail. And it was really my way of writing a letter to the women that were reading this column to say, if you find that your husband comes home every day early and grabs the mail, there's a reason. And that's because he's hiding something from you, and you need to know. And it could be where the guys are going to go crazy when they're listening and watching.
40%.
It can go the other way around.
40%. 40% of households across the United States today, the woman is the breadwinner.
And it's increasing. It's
Okay,
on
so
an
dramatically.
uprise.
So
Yes,
she could be
yes.
hiding the mail too. The point is, if you're a spouse, you want to make sure that if for some reason somebody's always grabbing the mail, there has to be a reason. Nobody would come home early from the office to grab the mail.
Well, maybe grab something else, but we don't have to get there.
Well, traditionally, the man is the breadwinner. The woman stays home to raise the family. I mean, that's traditionally, but obviously, as you said, it's changing.
And what's also changing, I think, in the last since the 2008 meltdown is I can't tell you how many calls that I've received personally from divorce attorneys that really, a lot of times, I want to talk the timing with you, it's after they've negotiated the divorce judgment, after it's been entered, and then they want to say, well, we put into the divorce judgment that the house will get there'll be a short sale on the house, or that the taxes will get paid, and then you have someone who's moved out of the house and the taxes have nothing to do with them, but they can compel them being paid just out of spite. So I want you to talk about the timing of, since 2008 now, what you've seen in your practice that has changed on these issues.
Well, it's difficult. I see so many people come to me post-judgment, meaning the judgment of divorce has already been entered, and now they're looking at their remedies and what they need to do next. And because the language in the judgment has not been written well, and they did not confer with a financial advisor or a bankruptcy lawyer, their remedies are limited, because to go back into court post-judgment is so difficult. It's difficult to change that language. You can enforce a judgment, but it's difficult to change the judgment.
It's not cheap to go back in post-judgment.
No, it is
not. The thing
not.
that we see that is the most disturbing, and it came out of the financial crisis as well. Before the financial crisis, it wasn't uncommon when there was equity in homes for the divorce judgment to have a provision that says one spouse is awarded the house and is responsible for making the payments under the mortgage and will hold harmless the other spouse from any liability on the mortgage.
Or it says in the judgment they're gonna refi and then quitclaim deed. Now, Brian,
that's the vicious hold harmless clause, which really messes in a bankruptcy.
Right. Well, let's just go to the next step. And then what happened, just to lay it out, is the financial crisis comes, property values go down by 50%, sometimes more at the heart of the financial crisis, and all of a sudden, like you said, David, you can't possibly refinance the house, and it's no longer even viable to hang on to the house. You've had an income hit. The house is only worth half of what the mortgage amount is. The smart play is to short sell the home, let it and get rid of it. But the problem is your other spouse who is now out of the marriage, your ex-spouse, and is entitled to indemnification, says, hey, I don't want you going to short sell the house and stop making the mortgage payments. You're going to affect my credit. And then you get into this acrimonious post-judgment divorce situation. We've handled a number of them. It's a big problem.
It's a very big problem. And a lot of times people don't realize that prior to the divorce judgment being entered, they do have other relief. I mean, bankruptcy and divorce are not mutually exclusive. You can file for bankruptcy while you're going through a divorce, albeit it makes it very difficult to finalize the divorce, but you cannot discharge alimony, child support. If there's someone who thinks that they can, they're sadly mistaken.
Yeah, Brian, how do those rules work?
Well, there's two different types of settlement in a divorce. You're going to have what's called the domestic support obligation, which includes alimony, child support, and other issues that are similar to that in the nature of support, and you have property settlement. Before 2005, property settlement used to be dischargeable in a bankruptcy, in a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Now it is explicitly eliminated. Neither alimony, child support, nor property settlement in a Chapter 7 are dischargeable.
Wait, Chapter 7 is the complete discharge. That's the simple bankruptcy where you get rid of your debts.
However, in Chapter 13, property settlements are dischargeable.
But what's not? So property settlement
alimony and child support have never been dischargeable and never will be. But because property settlement is dischargeable, a lot of advanced planning in dealing with divorce and bankruptcy at the same time comes into advantage at least one of the parties if it's done in a timely fashion.
Right, we're coming up on a break. When we come back, I want to dig back into this. I also want to kind of go, Sabrina, kind of get back your background and everything, a little bit more about your law firm and everything else. We'll take a break. We'll be back.
Thank you.
After the break.
Don't let legal problems destroy your family or your life. Get the justice you deserve. I'm Sabrina Cronin of the Cronin Law Firm, and I'm here to make things right. My firm handles family law, business law, and even criminal law. We can handle all of your legal needs. So whatever you're facing, I'm here to get you justice. You can't afford not to call. Call 855-CRONIN-LAW today.
I couldn't get out of the car. I couldn't run or exercise. I couldn't work.
Dr. Lewis Radin believes that pain shouldn't have to wait. His Spine Specialist of Michigan is a comprehensive center dedicated to helping you manage pain now. Expect the latest techniques and personalized care. Why suffer another minute?
He's the best. I tell people that he's the one that saved my life.
Make your appointment with Dr. Radin. Call 248-792-9496.
No one ever thinks that a serious injury can happen to them, but it can, and it does. And it can happen to you. And when it does, you need a fighter in that courtroom for you. Call me, Ben Johnson. Automobile accident, police misconduct, medical malpractice, product liability. You know what you're up against, how hard it is to get answers. When all you want is justice, call me, Ben Johnson. Whatever your legal crisis, I will fight for you. Call me today.
Do you have tax problems, unfiled returns? Facing levies on wages in your property? You need an expert, not a cartoon character or salesman. Thav Gross is your solution.
You need to look at the big picture. That's what we do.
We develop a plan that's right for you.
I had major tax problems. I didn't know what to do.
We did. We sat down together and solved your tax problem.
No more letters, no more phone calls. They saved me.
Call Thav Gross, 888-235-HELP.
Going from hourly to salary seemed like a good career move, but now you're working 60 hours a week instead of 40, and you aren't getting paid any of that extra time. You're stuck, right? Wrong. You can be on salary and still be entitled to overtime. If you've been wrongly denied such pay, you may be entitled to that and more. Gold Star Law is here to help you through your employment law problem, whatever it is.
Gold Star Law, protecting employees' rights. Call 1-800-WAGES-10 for a free consultation today.
Welcome back. We're with Sabrina Cronin, Cronin Law Firm, callcroninlaw.com.
That's right.
And just like our last segment, we had Ven Johnson on, and websites are critically important things nowadays from the standpoint of providing people an opportunity to get background information on who you're dealing with. You've got a terrific website. I've gone through it thoroughly. Ven Johnson mentioned, go to his website. You'll learn about him. We're big with, thavgross.com and financialcrisistalkcenter.com. That's where we post all information relative to business issues, financial issues, debt issues, mortgage foreclosures, news events. Research is always really important. Want to remind people we've got seminar coming up, long-term plan, debt-free, lean and mean. Take a look at that. Go to our websites, for dates and times on the seminars. So, Sabrina, where'd you go to law school?
I went to University of Detroit.
So you're a Detroiter, a native Detroiter?
No, actually, I was born and raised in Saginaw, Michigan. And then I went to U of M.
So you're a Michigander, though.
I'm a Michigander,
Have to be in Saginaw in 2 hours.
Yes, do you?
For breakfast?
Yeah, right.
Let me guess. It must be a soccer game.
Could be.
It takes you all over the state. And I know you also spent some time at Sullivan Ward?
Yes, I was there for about 5 years.
So business firm, were you doing what?
I did a lot of, I started my career actually with bankruptcy, helping a senior attorney there. And then I did some civil litigation, all defense work. From there I was...
was that Wally Handler you were
I
working
did.
with?
I was with Wally Handler, yes.
Does it start with a W?
Yes, yeah.
Great guy.
Great
He's
man.
an interesting
Terrific
character.
He's a wonderful man,
very,
yes.
Very colorful guy.
Yes, very colorful, especially when he walks into bankruptcy court. He's he has a commanding presence.
Yes,
there.
he does. He's a good guy.
So I've had quite a few years doing civil litigation. Then I moved on to another firm, Guerin Lukow. And then I was in-house at Pulte Corporation for a while. And then I was...
So will you be moving to Atlanta?
No. That was a short tenure. And general counsel then for another company after that. Then I went to the prosecutor's office and experienced a lot of trial experience with the criminal.
That must have been a shift in gears.
It was, but I wanted to get back in the courtroom. I wanted to hone my litigation skills, and it certainly did that. And I also wanted to learn a lot about criminal law. So I have a vast array of various disciplines in the law experience. And
sure, whenever a young lawyer comes to me and says, how do I really get experience in litigation? I always say to him, get a job in the prosecutor's office, because you're going to get a stack of files and cases, and you know what it is? You go, buddy.
Well,
Absolutely.
it's two. It's get a job in the prosecutor's office, or what we see with Ven and we saw with Sabrina, you got to do defense work for some of the larger insurance companies, and then you're going to get a lot of dram shop cases or whatever they may be, and you're going to be in the courtroom time and time again.
Yes, absolutely. I did it opposite. Most people start right from law school and they go into the prosecutor's office. I did it. I had been practicing for several years, but nonetheless, I have that experience. So.
All right. Let's bring it back now to bankruptcy and divorce. I mean, here, Brian, you guys, you see the question come up. Sabrina, you too, if you're handling a divorce. I want to throw two questions out there. One is the person comes in and says, "I have financial problems. I also want to get divorced. Should I file a bankruptcy before, or should I wait for should I get divorced first?" That's one. And the other thing that I see a lot of misunderstanding out there, and I'm sure you guys do as well, people don't understand coming out of divorce what they're liable for and what they're not. They think that the divorce judge has the power to say you're no longer liable on a debt to Chase Bank. And that's a fallacy out there that we run into all the time. But let's start with the first question first. What do you do? I got financial problems. I'm coming in. Bonnie's a good gal, but we're done. Okay. I'm underwater in my house. My job is gone into the gutter.
Who gets the dog? What do you do with the dog?
Who cares? Okay, I don't want to pay for the dog.
No, that's what Sabrina sees. Going to fight for 8 weeks over who gets the dog.
They fight for 8 weeks over a piece of china.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Right. You're going to get this fork, and then you're going to get that
crazy.
fork.
Yeah,
there's
that can drive you
it's
crazy.
It's really a good question, though. Should you file bankruptcy
Yeah,
before or after you get divorced? And I'll start off with, if both parties are in financial distress and a bankruptcy is an available opportunity, I think they should always file bankruptcy before the divorce. And the reason for that is once you've eliminated all of the liabilities that exist between the parties, first of all, it's going to make the divorce process easier because everybody's trying to point fingers and say, no, you take the liability, and that's gone.
You eliminate the uncertainty there, and because what's left afterwards is the only debts that are there.
Exactly.
I like that.
Sabrina, on that point, though, how important it is to have a rapport with your opposing counsel. We've had divorces. Let's say we got War of the Roses. Whoever's sleeping with the pool man or the pool gal or whatever, and these two, Brian looks at it and says they have to file. They have to file together, but they're so dysfunctional. Tell me about the situation and how are you able to get by that and get the bankruptcy filed and then to the divorce?
Well, it's difficult because what if there is a spouse that is so irate and so angry, say she caught her husband or cheating or the husband caught the wife cheating. I mean, they just don't want to deal with each other, let alone, meet with a bankruptcy lawyer and, hash out all those details. So it is so crucial for the two attorneys, to answer your question, to really get along and to try to temper the just the overall feeling of animosity among and between the parties.
One of the things that we've done.
So a lot of it depends on who your opposing counsel is.
Yes,
too.
because a lot of times opposing counsel will really inflate the situation, and it does nobody any good. No. So don't mistake kindness for weakness, because you really need to be kind and respectful to opposing counsel when it comes to these acrimonious situations, especially when there are such high-level dysfunctional parties involved.
And I deal with that a lot. And what I end up doing a lot of times with the dysfunctional husband and wife, I put one in one room, one in the other room, and I'm going back and forth dealing with the bankruptcy, and I never put them together until it's time to go to court.
I thought that's because you just like to run around from one office to the other.
I do like to run, too. It's the only exercise I seem to get.
How come you're not in your office? He's always running around. We're going to take a break. We come back. I want to kind of stay on this topic. There's a lot of issues that come into divorce. Chapter 7, Chapter 13, Brian's saying file if you can do it. When shouldn't you file? We'll take a break.
You like your job. What you don't like is the way your boss has been treating you. He's making comments about how you look instead of your work, and he's been touching you inappropriately. If you complain, is he allowed to fire you? Absolutely not. Unwelcome sexual comments, advances, and contact are illegal in the workplace. Make him pay. Gold Star Law is here to help you through your employment law problem, whatever it is.
Gold Star Law, protecting employees' rights. Call 1-800-WAGES-10 for a free consultation today.
Every family has the family meeting, and we all know what that means. Dad's got dementia. What are we going to do? What's the care plan that the family has in place? Usually they don't, or they struggle with a care plan. When you go home tonight and you talk to your tax person and you talk to your financial person, say, what's the plan that you have in place? And as soon as they don't give you an answer, give me a call, because I can do it for you.
Financially strapped? Do you want to save your home?
It's all about preserving future income. Bankruptcy is one option. When it's right, it's the least costly, most effective way to save your home, eliminate a second mortgage, and wipe out credit card debt. But you need to address the problem now.
We help people with bankruptcy. Call the experts.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
Double Action, Shooting Center and Gun Shop. For the largest selection of guns, accessories, and ammunition, Double Action is your only pro gun shop. And now you can train with the best in our basic CCW course. With the most comprehensive curriculum, the best resources, and most accomplished staff. Don't be fooled by cheap imitations. Double Action is the only place to get your CCW or renewal. Double Action. We're on DeQuinder and Madison Heights.
Carrying too much debt? Dump your debt. Call Fav Gross.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call Fav Gross. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
Welcome back. I think at the first segment I might have referred to David as Dave. If I did that, I'm horrifically
it's okay.
remorseful about it.
What do you think about that, Dave?
I accept your apology, Kenny.
What do you think about that, Dave?
The other thing I want to comment at the break is, Sabrina happens to be a very attractive attorney as well. And Brian, you don't have to dominate. I didn't get a chance to even talk to her during the break because you had this lengthy discussion about some legal issue. I feel kind of left out. I just want to let you know that. But
sorry.
It's like,
we were talking bankruptcy and divorce.
You didn't dominate when we had Ben Johnson on the show. You didn't spend every waking moment during the break talking to him. And Ben's
this is
super
what
guy.
I do. I do bankruptcy and divorce work in concert.
Just wanted to get that out there. That's all. Nothing. And I want to thank our sponsors. Then we'll get back into the.
You shouldn't pick on Brian.
Cronin, I want
just
to
because
thank
he's the only
Cronin
one that has
Law Firm
personal experience on the topic.
As a sponsor, Ben Johnson Law, Gold Star Law, Samasco Law, great elder law attorneys, Gold Star's employment law attorneys, Double Action Shooting Range and Gun Shop on DeQuinder and Madison Heights, and spine specialist in Michigan, Dr. Lou Radin, board certified in osteopathic medicine. We really do appreciate the support. All right, so back to this divorce issue. Brian, you took the position, or you said, if they can clearly file a Chapter 7, it makes perfect sense to me. Get rid of all the debts that are dischargeable. Now you and the two divorce attorneys only have to deal with the debts that are going to survive the bankruptcy. At least you've eliminated all the uncertainties that can become big problems later on. That makes sense. But when doesn't that work?
About 90% of the time. Because the parties can't work with each other,
no, let's
or
assume
one
they can
party
work
would
with
qualify
each
for a 13 and one qualifies for a 7.
Okay, how does that? That's why would
somebody
that
makes too much money and somebody makes too little amount of money, and since the parties are adverse to each other, it becomes problematic to represent both of them. You can't.
Hey, Brian, think about this, and Sabrina, I want to throw this out to you. And you said 90% of the time, and your answer was because they can't get along. But just think about it. If you took a step back, and you were able to, whether you put one in a 13, one in a 7, immediately the mortgage company is no longer calling you. The credit card companies are no longer calling you. And these calls are going to the household, to the husband, the kids are picking up, the dog is picking up, the wife. Think about how much easier...
It's a talented dog.
It is. Oh, you see the one that gets the beer? See how much easier your job would be. How much easier would your job be if all of those pressures were set aside because Brian put him through a bankruptcy? You could get the divorce judgment done between, the divorce settlement done between the two because all of those other anxieties are not there. But do we see that ever happen?
Sometimes.
Yeah,
right,
absolutely.
But do we see it as often as we should?
As we should?
Right. Because if we could get, if you could get the people to get together, to get along, I think we'd have greater success of having less acrimonious divorces because of the financial pressures.
Well, if they could get along, they wouldn't be getting a divorce.
Right. Well, I was just going to say the same thing. I was going to go exactly with that.
Not necessarily.
Here's my question.
I agree with you. No,
I've had clients that get along fabulously that come to me and say, here, we got it all done. I want you to do the divorce.
Well, they're mature, and they know what's in the best interest of all parties involved, especially when children are involved. It is so important to do, as you say, but 9 times out of 10, they don't. They don't put aside their selfishness, and they don't put aside their anger for the betterment of the family.
And that's when your job comes.
Sabrina, one of the biggest problems I'm seeing is houses underwater. How are you now dealing with that in judgments of divorce, and how does it differ from the way it used to be, which was this one spouse takes on the house and holds the other harmless? What are you doing differently?
Well, it makes it difficult. A lot of times parties, even after they've divorced, still end up living together in the same house. and because they don't know what to do with the house, they don't know whether they should sell it. They want to maybe wait till the economy improves. So we have to put specific language in the judgment to make up for various scenarios, if you will, so that there isn't the issue post-judgment what to do with the money, if there is equity in the home, if there's not equity in the home, if they want a short sale or foreclose. A lot of times these people foreclose on the home. We see that less and less now. I mean, for several years after 2008, we saw a lot of that. But it's a very difficult and tenuous situation.
Yeah, Brian, what I see on that is the hold harmless clause is just a major problem all the time on these things. I have numerous cases where I've got a client right now. It was a business debt. He got divorced several years ago, and in the divorce judgment, he's holding harmless his spouse. The client himself is uncollectible with tax problems, but the ex-spouse is collectible. He's defaulted on the obligation on the property. This was a business property, and now the bank is suing both of them. And I go back and I look and I get the divorce judgment, and he has a hold harmless provision in there, which means she has a claim back against him. He can't discharge it in bankruptcy, so I have to keep him perennially uncollectible.
And the funny thing is that people that get divorced have this they believe that, he's made responsible for it. Citibank can't come after me anymore.
That's what I was getting
And
to.
I've been saying this for years. You can divorce each other, but you can't divorce the bank.
Absolutely.
You know what I've seen is I've read a lot of judgments where they don't even get to the issue of which party has the right to sign off on the sale agreement of the house. When really the way everything is set up in the whole divorce settlement, it should really be one of the parties that has actually got the authority, but it's not set forth in the judgment. And what do? You got to go back to court because the other side may be not amenable to getting the sale done.
Well, that's the key word. If they are amenable, then it works out fine. If they're not, and acrimony, relationship continues, then yes, you have to go back to court. And the problem is they don't have money to go back to court. And then you look at the equity in the home, and does the equity of the home substantiate all these legal fees to go back to court post judgment? It's very difficult.
Perennial nightmares.
It's difficult.
Tough things.
Well, isn't that the issue why you need to have the most experienced divorce counsel you can get? I mean, really, drafting these judgments.
We're running out of time. I want to make one point.
Is important.
If you're in that situation and you're looking at getting in a divorce judgment, and the obligations in that judgment are having you hold the other spouse harmless from a debt, you need to really scrutinize whether you want to make that commitment or whether you need to discuss that further with the opposing counsel and try and avoid that outcome. It's a dangerous situation that you want to try and avoid. Sabrina, I want to thank you for joining us. Good luck on future endeavors. We'll have you back on the show again. Keep in touch.
Thank you
very much. I want to thank our sponsors. Remember, we've got seminars coming up. Go to our websites, check dates and times. Have a great week. We'll be back next week with the Financial Crisis Talk Center. Thanks for listening and watching.